Closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.
What's up? This is Out of Wrestling with another video, and today it's going to be the 2006 history of the United States Championship. Now, 2006 kicked off with no champion going into that year, and that was due to the Best of 5 series between Chris Benoit and Booker T. That Best of 5 series continued, and it will conclude on SmackDown in January when Randy Orton subbed in for an injured Booker T to win the U.S. title for Booker T. So your new champion is Booker T now in January of 2006. Alright. Leading into the Royal Rumble, Booker T is still injured and refuses to compete. I believe that he enters the Royal Rumble. I could be mistaken though, but Teddy Long then says he's going to have to defend his championship with no sub-ins at No Way Out against Chris Benoit. And this is the end of the feud between Booker T and Chris Benoit. They had a really good match at No Way Out. It wasn't as good as the other matches they had, but it was the finale of their feud. So Chris Benoit came out on top. At this point, Chris Benoit has possession of the United States Championship in February 2006, and he starts a feud with JBL. This feud started on SmackDown because Chris Benoit, I believe, was in a 6-man tag, or maybe it was a 1-on-1, but he was in the ring with JBL, and he broke JBL's hand. So JBL was coming out in a cast, and they faced off at WrestleMania, where JBL defeated Chris Benoit to win the United States Championship. So we already had 3 champions in 3 months, you know. The championships going back and forth, but nonetheless, JBL is the new United States champion. After WrestleMania, JBL is the U.S. champion, but he gets involved in the World Heavyweight Championship feud, or not feud. He gets involved in the World Heavyweight Championship, and he's feud with Rey Mysterio. And at Judgment Day, he promises to win the world title, so he's going to be a double champion, he says. But at Judgment Day, he's defeated by Rey Mysterio. And this is right after Rey won the world title, so it was obvious. Well, not obvious, but, you know, I'm sure everybody was hoping that he would win. JBL, though, he was still the United States champion, but on the next episode of SmackDown, after he lost to Rey, he was challenged by Bobby Lashley for the U.S. title, and he lost. And then he would go on to challenge Rey Mysterio, and that same night he would lose that, and he would quit after that. It was he put his career on the line. But nonetheless, Bobby Lashley beat him in that night to win the U.S. title. So Bobby Lashley has the title. At this point, Bobby Lashley was pretty new. You know, JBL, he had already been WWE champion. He was, like I said, on the downside of his career at this point. But Bobby Lashley was just coming up. And right now, he's the current U.S. champion, but his original championship reign came in 2006. Now, this reign started when he beat JBL, and he immediately was in a feud with King Booker, because he was in the King of the Ring tournament, and this was before. No, it wasn't before. This was right after King Booker won the tournament and really became King Booker. So they feuded for the U.S. title. They had a bunch of matches, but they had a match almost every week on SmackDown. But I remember it ended in a steel cage match where Lashley was he got the win and retained his title against Booker T. And afterwards, Booker T went on to other things, and Lashley continued to feud with Booker T in spirit because he was feuding with Booker T's court. Finlay was his next challenger. And man, him and Finlay had some really good matches before Lashley was even the U.S. champion. But Lashley had a 49-day reign, so he had it for like a month and a half. He dropped it to Finlay on an episode of SmackDown due to a little bit of cheating, and Lashley lost the title. Finlay, this is the only time he was ever a singles champion in WWE. I really like Finlay's title reign. He had it for 49 days. He was, he was in King Booker's court along with William Regal. He had a lot of matches with Bobby Lashley, and at the Great American Bash, he was set to defend it in a triple threat against William Regal and Bobby Lashley. But Bobby Lashley had some physical problems. He was injured that night, so he wasn't able to make it. So it was the King's Court, Finlay and William Regal, 1-on-1 with each other. Finlay retained the title, and SummerSlam came around. He wasn't in a match at SummerSlam, but he was involved in the McMahon's and DX match. He came out to help the McMahon's win. We tried to help the McMahon's win, I should say. And soon after that, he was involved in a feud with Mr. Kennedy. They was backstage and going back and forth with each other, and Kennedy basically like, well, I mean, if you put that title on the line against me, I'll beat you. Teddy Long says, all right, I'll make this match, but instead of one-on-one, it's going to be a triple threat, and we're going to add Bobby Lashley. So Bobby Lashley is looking to get his U.S. title back. Finley's looking to retain it, and Mr. Kennedy is looking to win his first title. This is like, I think, late August or early September 2006. Yeah, early September. Mr. Kennedy will go on to win the title that night in the triple threat match and win his first and sadly his only championship in WWE. And honestly, those 42 days of him as champion was terrible. Not because of him, because they made the championship seem just so unimportant. Like he entered a feud with the Undertaker, like right after he won it. But it wasn't a feud about the title. It was just the title wasn't involved in the feud at all. He just came out with it. I think he beat Rey Mysterio one week. So he wasn't like losing. But I don't know. I just didn't like the reign. It was just he came out with the title, but he didn't really do anything with it. He never defended it. But when he did defend it, it was on the SmackDown after No Mercy, which he lost to the Undertaker in No Mercy, and he defended it against Chris Benoit, who had just returned at No Mercy. Chris Benoit defeats Mr. Kennedy and wins the title again. Now, Chris Benoit is the final champion of 2006. He held this title going into 2007, well into 2007, really. But Chris Benoit, not much to say about him, like just as a U.S. champion. He was probably the greatest U.S. champion, like one of the greatest U.S. champions of all time. But he won it from Mr. Kennedy in October. And then he entered into a feud with Chavo Guerrero. And, they're like real life friends. But this feud was, they brought Eddie Guerrero into the feud. And that's what it was about. Chavo said Chris Benoit was, trying to live off the Guerrero name and all that. So Chavo Guerrero faced Benoit for the title at Survivor Series in Armageddon, and Benoit beat him both times. And that was his feud for the rest of 2006. 2006, I look at it as the year that the U.S. title really became like, all right, this is just straight mid-card championship, because like in the years before, you had guys like John Cena and Eddie Guerrero, people that would get the U.S. title, and then soon after they would become the world champion. But at this point, it was just, all right, this is gonna be a championship for the mid-card guys, And I think that's all started with Orlando Jordan when he beat John Cena. But Chris Benoit and Booker T, they're two people that had already been the world. Well, in Chris Benoit's case, he had already been the world champion in WWE at this point. So he's like an outlier. But everybody else, Bobby Lashley, Finley, Mr. Kennedy, all those guys, they hadn't reached the world title yet, and none of them really did in WWE. So, but I thought it was a decent year for the U.S. Championship, and that's going to be it. The 2006 history of the United States Championship.